Number 11.
We all have our fears and anxieties. Some people are afraid of snakes, others of public speaking, while even a few are afraid of how utterly amazing Volt is at everything. Why did I let you have script writing duties? Anyways, fear and anxiety are both very, very bad, but you know what's even worse? Imagine if there was someone that could make these nasty little emotions come to life.
Something that could unnaturally intensify them, to the point where the line between reality and nightmares begins to blur.
You know who doesn't have to imagine it? Sonia and Leo.
That's right. While it might not be the most conventional battle, our number 11 fight is Sonia and Leonardo versus Larkin and Ron, starting on page 25 of chapter 5.
Larkin is a member of the Rear Admiral's personal staff, one of the Federation's more unique trump cards.
But while most of the Heavens Federation that our crews run into are skilled in busting some caps or shaking some fools, Larkin's expertise is based around messing with the mind. Our not-so-friendly neighborhood interrogator has access to a pretty nasty concoction that can really screw with the old noggin, dragging out all sorts of nastiness.
But how did our heroes come to face such a fearsome foe? Well, let's roll back to the beginning of chapter 5, which begins on the resort island of Fortuna. Having been given the chance to enjoy a bit of peace and relaxation, in particular, the Thane siblings have decided to...
No.
What?
Nope.
Are you sure?
No.
Because I
we
think...
are not doing this. So, to take the reins, our crew is enjoying some completely proper, G-rated fun on the island of Fortuna. Thanks to some events that I am definitely not going to elaborate on, they find themselves roped into yet another job.
It turns out that a pretty major crime syndicate, the Aouria, are looking to get their hands on a state-of-the-art prototype flight core, a magical device that would allow any ship to take to the skies.
Of course, because nothing is ever easy. Said device just happens to be located within a heavily guarded Federation base located upon the island of Mordheim, or Murder House, if you want a literal translation.
Lovely name.
Breaking in alone is incredibly difficult, and making off with the flight core as well, nearly impossible.
But hey, you know what would make this job a whole lot easier? A heaping dose of plot armor.
And thus, the crew has their mission for the chapter.
Break into Mordheim, raise some chaos, and make off the flight core. Easy enough, right? No.
Nope.
Nah way.
It turns out that our crew aren't the only ones who decided to pay Mordheim a visit. Calandra Priya, Rear Admiral of the Heavens Federation, has also decided to stop on by alongside her besties.
Things quickly go belly up. The crew's carefully laid plans are askew, and in general, it reaches the point where everything just kind of sucks.
In the midst of this absolute mess, both Leonardo and Sonia are separated from their group and eventually find themselves bumping into Larkus Ron.
Already dealing with a mess of his own, which we may or may not go into further detail with in a later video, he sees two defenseless kids and decides, you know what, I'm totally gonna bully them.
Well, there is a bit more to it than that. Larkin and Sonia actually have something of a history with one another. Being the daughter of a high-ranking Federation officer, it's no surprise that she's bumped into him a few times in the past.
Of course, Larkin being Larkin, their shared history isn't a story of the two being friendly acquaintances. Being one of the few humans capable of using magic, Larkin has a very disturbing fascination with Sonia, even going as far as viewing her as his muse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, quickly flooding the halls with his fear toxin, both Leonardo and Sonia find themselves swept up into a nightmarish hellscape.
Leo finds himself standing amongst the bodies of his crew. Zack is slumped against a wall and covered in blood. Kaleo is more limbless than usual. Vidalia has been torn to shreds. But hey, at least Leto is also dead, so you know, silver lining.
Excuse me?
Worst of all though is Kaya. Though still alive, her body has been run through by what appears to be a fabrication blade. The only one we know who has such a weapon is, well...
Whoopsie-doodle, Leo.
An apparition of Isaac shows up soon after, doing what he does best by being an absolutely terrible father.
While he's busy mocking our shonen protagonist, Sonia isn't having a better time. Her own chemical-induced nightmare calls upon her greatest fear.
That of her crew, who are basically her family by this point, outright abandoning her. Yet whereas Leo is nearly swallowed up by his own nightmares, Sonia manages to hold strong.
She tells herself, again and again, that isn't real, and as she forces herself back into reality, she tries to coax Leo back as well.
For a moment, it seems as though her words might actually bear fruit. But unfortunately, evil Isaac manages to double down on the belittling and Leonardo is driven into a ferocious rage.
Fortunately, by this point, the Isaac hallucination and Larkin have sort of transposed upon one another. This means that our favorite mad scientist finds himself receiving the brunt of Leonardo's daddy issues.
He's forced against the wall, but takes advantage of an injury Leo took earlier in the night.
Thankfully, this little bit of ruckus has given Sonya the chance to prep some fire magic of her own.
Larkin pulls a gun on the prone Leo. In response, Sonya forms a ring of flame around the man. The two have themselves a classic standoff situation, with the tension ramping up.
And as they wait to see who will pull the trigger first, Sonya probably has what I'd call her shining moment. Stowing away her fear of the man, she basically picks him apart, bit by bit.
She forces the man to confront his obsessions to become a fae, or at least obtain the gift of magic, while simultaneously, she accepts her own powers and finds comfort that they can protect her new family.
Having pushed Larkin into the metaphorical corner, she throws out a zinger of a one-liner before going in for the final attack. Larkin is knocked out with a fireball to the chest, and the battle is won.
Now, what did we think about this battle? I think the main point in favor of its placement is just how unique it is. The whole fear toxin aspect throws a new and different kind of wrinkle into things.
It forces our heroes to confront parts of themselves they'd much rather keep locked away, and it's not the kind of situation where they can just physically punch their way out of.
This is also the most defining moment for Sonya as well.
It really is. Before this, she hasn't had much of a chance to shine. Having her confront Larkin, someone who she's absolutely terrified of, and then triumph over both him and her fears, leaves you as a reader feeling so good.
It honestly feels just plain cathartic. Plus, there is excellent character development here for Leo and Sonya's relationship as well.
Not to mention Larkin himself, despite being a bit of a side character, actually has a motivation besides being evil. His insane mindset, style of fighting, and so on, make him a breath of fresh air, villain-wise. It's just a shame that we won't be able to see any more of him. Thanks, Jeremiah.
Now, you may be asking yourself, with all these pros, why was this fight not any higher?
And I think one of the bigger aspects is that it was a bit on the short side.
And while short and sweet is definitely a thing, in this case we feel like it kind of took the oomph out of things. Case in point, Sonya's own hallucination barely got any screen time. Would have been nice to see a bit more of her struggling with it.
The ending of the fight is a bit muddled as well. The last bit of the standoff, despite Sonya's excellent speech, was a bit rushed, and Larkin's defeat definitely came off as sudden.
It would have been nice to have a bit more back and forth between the two, considering the history they have with one another.
Still, despite these issues, we feel very confident about giving this fight a place on our list.
It does way more things right than wrong, and at the very beginning of starting this project, we knew this was going to end up on the final list somewhere.
Plus, this fight is personal character-driven conflict, instead of being two opposing strangers meeting for the first time.
Exactly. In the end, I think we can all agree that this fight is scary good.